It's the weekly 30/30 trading list. We're finding the best momentum companies on the ASX and identifying the companies that are set to run next. We're doing this with Gary Glover from Novus Capital, who's been through the list, pulled out his favourites and surfaced them to have a look at right now. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. How you going?
I'm happy. It's Friday, it's sunny in Sydney, and we've got a decent list. Portfolio's been doing well, which is in your Tuesday videos. And you're going to run through possibly the next set of trades we might look at next week and research over the weekend. So how'd that quarterly momentum list go for you?
Yeah, not too bad. There's a few in there, a few interesting trades in there. ARU, Arafura Rare Earths is number one there on the quarterly momentum. It's had a pretty nice run here. Obviously a nice percentage move, obviously from that sort of sub 30. But not too many sort of signals in there to sort of for us to trade there. But probably the interesting thing here is the volume there, Chris. Some pretty big volume move here, and we're also getting up towards that 49.50 cent mark here. So this one might just be one to put on the radar here. See, maybe if we get up to 50 cents here, then maybe a little, some sort of little cup there or not, little nice consolidation over a period there. Stay underneath the high there, and might be worth a look there. That's probably I just put it on the radar. So no trade in there, but I just probably put that on the list there. I think WGA was number 2. Again, not much of a trade in there, just sort of a bit of a gap up there. First one interesting there was RNU, Renascor Resources. I think we might have mentioned this before actually. There's a nice little BCP in here. So I see it was all consolidating under
weeks ago.
25 cents. Yeah, just little tight little consolidation here. So that was probably the first time they're having a bit of volume there. So you saw some good volume, dried up in light volume, popped up in good volume again, and then we've sort of starting to pop through here with volume. So even getting up a 25.5 cent interest, I'm like, you sort of still had a nice move here. Probably a little small, but not a bad little signal there. IPG, pretty interesting one as well. Probably we go back a little bit here. This sort of been a nice little VCP pattern here, almost like a little cup and handle in there as well, sort of. But more importantly, it's just a nice little consolidation now. The volume was a little light there, but we would have been breaking out here. Some pretty decent volume as well. So this is obviously Davis is sort of adding on a breakout there. Obviously has gone on with it there from what 225 or something like all the way up to the low threes there. So interesting little pattern there. A11.
Both of these are recent listings, aren't they?
Yeah, this is one we actually mentioned about what's just one off the, if it had sort of broken above that shoulder there, might have given you a little trigger. Had a nice little move here. Had a nice little consolidation again. This is still, this is just another breather here. Left a bit of spacing here. It's still pretty positive here actually. That's not super strong volume, but it's still not bad. Oftentimes your last leg up can still go up on a lot of volume here. So this is still constructive there, still in reasonable shape here. So anyone who's long that, you probably, we wouldn't want to see it go below here. But yeah, still pretty constructive here at this stage. What else we got in there? SFR. So I think last week we were talking about a lot of the gold stocks there. It's just just big volume, big green bars here. So when these golds move, they can really hum. So so lots of golds on the list there. I think Gold Road as well. Reasonable volume as well. Good volume down here. Good volume through here. It's just been a few little consolidations and it's kept going here. So pretty constructive sector there. I'm long a few golds here. I think they're all looking pretty good there. It can be hard to the gold there because we've had a few pops and then they've faded back here recently. So they've sort of let us down a few times. Me personally, sort of got a few positions on and got stopped out at break even twice. So I've got a few positions on now, and now they're starting to run. Now you're like, when do I cut these? Do I run with this thing, or am I going to partial trade it, or? Yeah, because I know this sort of thing golds can really take off. So trying to stay with them a little bit. But if I see any hesitation at all, I might be trimming a little bit, but I'm going to try and hold a call this out. Just probably the best they've looked to me. So yeah, I see a few broker reports getting positive about gold as well, which is interesting. So but yeah, it's definitely one of those ones. Probably maybe just do the Minervini. If you get really big, any big pops there, maybe just sort of trim a little bit and then wait for the consolidation and come back in there. So that's the way I'm going to play it there. Thought this one was pretty interesting actually. Latin Resources LRS, nice little VCP in here, nice consolidation there. Just the whole thing's just sort of tightened up in here as well. And then once it's sort of broken up out of this sort of consolidation there, just basically almost sort of triangulated there, high, low. Just once it's sort of gone above here, it's moved through here. So this sort of looks pretty positive here now. So this needs to sort of crack through this level as well. But yeah, for a small, probably too small for me, but chart looking quite good. Chalice Mining was sort of one that we mentioned actually last week there. I thought was sort of starting to have some constructive signs there. I think that volume there was the thing that sort of really stood out to me, sort of breaking into a new higher low, bit of a change in character. We had this, if we look at a trend line down from across the tops here, this is a bit of a breakout as well. This was a nice consolidation, all that, nice and tight there, and very decline on, no volume there. So
it takes like 4 days to go up, goes up with decent volume.
Yeah.
Comes back slowly over 8-9 days or something like that.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, it's Bill McLaren used to sort of say it's as simple as counting. You're sort of it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and then we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, and we've probably only come back half the range. So it's it's holding up really good shape here, no volume in there. So yeah, this looks looks pretty good here. So build again, another consolidation again on low volume, and the volume's actually come in pretty heavier towards the end here. So so it's constructive here. Yeah, just whether this is like an A, B, C here or not, or whether this can get going. But early signs definitely positive. Evolution was pretty good. I mean, just look at the volume there, Chris, on that. It's just, we saw huge. That. I think there was a little, on the weekly there was a little descending wedge there. Bit of a breakout there. Little small retest. Not too much volume on these sort of down days here. And then we got, some big volume sort of coming through here. All that pullback there. You can see the pullback on light volume. Maybe that inside day as well, And then we're going again, good volume again. So still pretty constructive here. So it's probably first level resistance just up here, but I don't know, it's just still stocks are, when they move like this, good volume there. So they just got to let them go a little bit there. So Neuren Pharmaceuticals, yeah, this stock's been on the list for a long time, Chris, here. I think we talked about this little VCP in here back at sort of $6 here now. We're, what are we, north of 850 here. So yeah, it's had a pretty good move here. So yeah, this, the old, leaders lead here. So, definitely biotechs is definitely one of the strongest sort of sectors in the US. I think, solar is probably one of the other sectors there, but definitely sort of healthcare, sort of biotech, solar have sort of been a few of the stronger moves in the States, if anyone follows sort of US momentum sort of stuff. So that, probably a bit long in the tooth here, but probably thought that quite a while ago, and they could just continue to keep going here. Thought this one was pretty interesting, the AngloGold as well. Bit of liquid, but look how, kind of impulsive here, corrective, impulsive. So, the golds are all looking pretty similar, all looking pretty constructive there. So that was it for the quarterly. In the daily, number one was ICL.
So it's weekly momentum ones, the launch pads.
Yes, this is this is the weekly ones that have just literally just popped this week. So these are ones just sort of early movers rather than been running for the last quarter. Yeah, nice little pop there, and that small one there, another gold stock, Chris. BSA, nice little pop too. A bit hard to trade there, not too many signals in there. NCK number 4. This is not too bad here. This has had a pretty nice consolidation there. Bit of a false breakdown at the low here. Maybe a little fold back technique here, Chris. If we say this is our low, market's sort of folded out, gone back up to the high here, gone back down to the low here, and sort of folding back out here. So maybe this can rally all the way back up to 1150 there. So looks pretty constructive. That's sometimes there's that little fallback technique. You find a point in the chart where the stock will just sort of, how it moved into that point, it will travel out the same manner, a bit like the 360 we covered a couple of months ago. So that does look pretty constructive. KLS, Kelsian Group, it's had a nice little move here. Again, we're sort of, there's, always looking for a move above. If you study Elliott wave, the counter rally is like a little three-wave counter rally. So like your little A, B, sort of C, and then your trend might go down. So you never, just because you get a higher low doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Okay. But once you sort of go past that high low, once you go past that, A, B, C, it has a bit of a breather and then it pushes above that. That's always a good sign for me when I see it crack on through there. So that would have been the first sort of sign there. 11th of November would have been looking kind of positive, even though volume's a bit light. That's the first day that actually coincides with getting over the 50-day moving average as well. But funny that. And then, it just continues. This is one to keep an eye on here. I think this is pretty constructive there. Probably nice to see some sort of consolidation there, but definitely one on the radar to have a look at there. TPW. This one here is sort of looking a little bit shaky here now. So this has had a pretty decent volume sell-off here on the way down. Had a bit of a bounce on light volume here, and then starting to turn down on volume again. So that does not look so pretty. MAF. This one here is really interesting to me because this had a nice sort of move. So it's taken out a swing high. So maybe a change of character. We've broken above the 50. I know we sort of pulled back here, but pretty, there's pretty light volume in here. Popped up again. So come back up in the range, and then I've just drifted here. So now we're just drifting. We're consolidating under the high here. And it's a little, you argue this is a VCP. You can actually, this could be a little cup and handle in there, Chris, as well. So
that tight consolidation, low volume. Is that
you love that. Just sort of,
you
love. I think David Ryan, he loves this sort of setup here. Basically, sort of just consolidating, going sideways under the high, low volume here. So I think any sort of move out of here is probably worth sort of following here. So I think this is sort of pretty constructive actually. So definitely like the look of that. MP1's on the list here. I know sort of a couple of people are asking about this one here because obviously I did like this one here, but once we sort of broke a swing low here, we shouldn't really be there. But so it had a bit of a sell-off here. I think the market was worried about them having to raise capital. That's why it sort of sold off. Obviously, the company the last few days has said, no, we got plenty of cash. I think we've got 80 mil, and then we've got a line of credit for another 25. So that's quite good here, but it hasn't really gotten back above here. So to me, that one there, you really need to get above that swing low there. Probably need to really close above 680 for it to sort of start to look favorable there. Just still pretty light volume in here. Not, that's probably the one day up here. This is all still pretty light here. So
it's under the 50-day again.
Yeah. So I know someone had a question there regarding growth stocks there, saying that growth's underperforming NASDAQ. I'm talking about the Aussie growth stock is performing. I'm not sure that's right. Most of the growth stocks that I'm sort of seeing here, they're sort of making corrective rallies here. So they're, and even something like Seek, which is something I liked, it's still sort of overlapping here, So constructive, high, low. So it's sort of like this move here was, was overlapping as well. I mean, it ended up moving higher, but it's not impulsive. You want to see, I know sometimes a base can make a few high lows and then you can pop here, but it's sort of I'm still sort of long some of these, but it's not as strong as that's not a strong trend. So that's not strong here. I mean, even Domino's as well. Again, that's quite a pullback here, overlapping, and then end the trend, and it's gone back up again. So you might think, oh, this, our growth stocks are strong here. That's not a strong trend as well. So, I think they can go higher. I like this as consolidating under the high here, but so far they're not really showing that strength, and I I think Aussie growth is the same as US growth. I think they're all sort of sort of struggling there. So I wouldn't say there's just not getting the big moves here. We're not getting these VCPs aren't not too many of them are really cracking on and going berserk. Go back a couple of years ago, all those VCPs would have just been popping ferociously, and everyone everyone's making money hand over fist, but that's not the case at the moment. It's more of a grind here.
Well, that's probably on that 30-30 list we showed right at the start. That's that momentum profile on the left. If that number is really high, that's when we're seeing the VCPs just break out and go berserk, like you're saying a couple of years ago. But it's floating around 20-25, which is like 25%, which is pretty low, and exactly what you're saying. You get the setups, but they're not running.
So what numbers will we seeing at the highs there, Chris, or in the
so they're up like 85, 90, 92s, 93s.
Yeah.
That's when the lithium and the uraniums are running. You see a VCP in those stocks, it just went and it ran, and then it dragged a few companies along with it that were borderline VCP or borderline congestion. That's a trading market. That's probably getting good enthusiasm. But like you're saying, it looks like there's setups, like you've got on the MSB there on the screen. Is there a VCP in there? Is it impulsive enough? How do you read that?
Yeah, look, the only thing is we're just sort of seeing, a bit like the SEEK there, you're sort of, you're sort of seeing a high, number of high lows sort of setting up here. So just sort of, there was a little sort of spring in there, but the volumes are still pretty light. So somewhat constructive. You might argue there's maybe a bit of base building going on here, but still not impulsive. So you just got to be, the one thing you're sort of seeing is I'm probably being a little bit niftier on my in and out. So I'm definitely, I think I mentioned here last week, the notes I made previous week was to be a little bit more sell into some strength there. So if I got a nice move in my stocks, was to sort of sell into some of that strength. So whereas I sort of wasn't doing that, and I was also giving myself a bit more room here because it was sort of thinking, look how volatile, just all the stocks are all whipping back a bit. So so you give yourself a bit more room there. So don't be quick to jump up to break even as well. So that's been working for me. Just give myself a bit more room. Maybe probably, I think I mentioned here, before the recording that I probably haven't been trading with the same sort of conviction, like as in the size. So normally I can get up to like 20%, whereas probably I think at the moment 15, 16% is the most I'm getting up to. I'm probably averaging, around 10% position size. Sometimes small there. So just not getting the, big moves there. So you just got to sort of adapt to a little bit of the market there. I remember when Minervini was he was trading those VCPs and they were moving big, so he's taking the whole licks, but then the market changed and then he'd be tightening his risk and then making his reward a bit shallower. So he's still at the same risk reward. Instead of basically, say, risking 6 or 7% to make 18 or 20, he might only be risking 3 or 4% to make 12 or 14 or something. So so just got to adapt to the market there. NXL is pretty interesting here. This is sort of the stock's been on a pretty downward tear here. So broken above one swing high here, possible change of character there. Bit of a decent volume move here. So probably just one to put on the radar there. It's not really, we're in the wrong sort of sector here. Growth's not really, as we're just talking about it, no, it's not favorable here. So you want to sort of see this one, but definitely Nuix there. Just we saw some decent volume down the lows here, some decent volume here. This might build a bit of a base here. So probably just one to sort of keep an eye on there. UMG, United Malt, bit of a value sort of share, you might say. A little bit of a VCP in here in a way. Some okay volume in there. Did we get a little false breakdown there, Chris? Or
did it get lower? That's a good
281.
Very close, isn't it?
Might have gone 281. So another double bottom, a bit like Bega. So we prefer to see a breakdown here, but good volume down at the lows here. Not so here, but little three-way pullback. Interesting here, we had a bit of a spike on volume that day. Give back a little bit there, starting to climb again, but Yeah, so one to keep an eye on there. UMG not too bad looking. I think LRS was on the quarterly. It's also on the daily here. Pretty good move this week. CBE, Cobre, nice little VCP in here, Chris, off the low. It's a little pullback, come back, a little consolidation. Just see how it's sort of hanging pretty tight there.
Right, so jumped up.
Yes, yeah, it's a bit of a spike on volume, eased off, bit of a spike into the high, eased off in here, and then just started to push through here. So, breaking above this level here is kind of positive, but again, probably too small for me, but definitely looks okay. I think AXE was sort of one that a lot of traders are talking about there. Oh, I can't see anything too fantastic in there. Sort of like it sort of spiked into the, almost spiked into these highs here. So, yeah, not that constructive to me. The one that I sort of saw was, I thought Domain was interesting there, just because it did go to a new low. So spike to a new low, didn't follow through. That was on pretty good volume, and it's had a little bit of a pullback, a bit of a bounce, and then consolidation. Bit of a bounce, consolidation, so the whole thing's tightening up here. It's a little VCP in here, but a little volume here. Jesus, something's taking place here. So is this distribution or is this accumulation taking place? Because that's a lot of trading going on in here. So, I think if it actually, you can kick up out of this range here. I think that might be 310 or something there. And what's this level here? 314.5. So it kicks up out of there. This might be a reasonable signal. It just needs to sort of break here. Just, let's say, a lot of these are letting us down here or not really following through here. So, but this is definitely interesting there. I think what's the other one that obviously Domain is REA. So REA is reported pretty well, held on pretty decently. So yeah, another spring as well, Chris. There's that little false break, and then it would have been hard to obviously buy it on that massive gap there. But yeah, sort of a decent move here. But that's kind of it there. So just definitely still got a few golds moving. Obviously they've run pretty decent. So do you take some off or not? A bit tricky. I think if they get a bit vertical, just probably tear a little bit back. Anytime they consolidate, maybe add some back in there. But they're looking interesting. Other than that, it's a bit of a mixed bag in there, really. So I think some of those bigger, talk about the coal stocks, and some of those bigger lithium players have started to cool off. So they're starting to sort of edge back here. And there's a couple of sort of biotechs in there, but yeah, I mean, what's any sectors that are that you've noticed there that are sort of showing some strength?
Well, surprisingly, right. So this is a list that's run every day when we share this report on a weekly basis. And on Wednesday, the day before we ran the report to do this recording, 5 of the 6 top themes in the launchpad were all property related, so industrial, REITs, that kind of thing. It's amazing to see. It's kind of like seeing gold miners, gold explorers, and then they're broken down into different geographies in the groups that we've got. Yeah. But to see 5 of the top 6 is pretty solid. The hard part there is that, like you were saying, with Minervini adjusting the trades for the market, it's hard to get excited for LPTs and property.
Yeah.
Lithium and coal running, the percentages that you look at.
But everyone, but you got to remember too that when these stock, because obviously, what happens is everyone goes, interest rates going up, and so everyone thinks, get out of property. So so all of a sudden everyone does get out, and then everyone's already out, and then that's when these stocks sort of rise, and that's usually when no one's looking at them because no one wants to go near them. But so we've seen here with GPT, this obviously a month ago we're sort of like, property cycle's negative here, interest rates getting up, it's don't be long, we've got people not coming back to the city, all the reasons not to be long are probably peaking right here as we find a low. And then since then we've had a bit of a rally pullback, bit of a rally, little consolidation, and then little pop out of here out of your VCP there, So
And over the 50-day moving average.
yeah, so this is sort of like, we just sort of crack above here. So yeah, exactly. Crack your 50-day moving average, crack above the little B wave, and what's happening is sort of, it's building ever since there. I think that JHX I was looking at there. So James Hardy's had a bit of a downgrade as well. This has sort of got bumped here as well, but now starting to build. So it's all sort of priced in here now. So it's interesting. Yes, yeah.
They've got the US exposure. I remember seeing some statistics that there were more. So in the US they call mortgage brokers something different, and there were more mortgage brokers handing back their licenses every day in the last month or two than what they were handing out per month in the peak. So they had cumulative years and years and years of more mortgage brokers signing up to be a part of that industry.
Yep.
And then throughout the month of September, every day they were cancelling more and more mortgage broking licenses. So exactly like you're saying, that September period, that's kind of like the peak regions to sell. They're all peaking there. So I guess what you say is, you said it before, when people are out in the media talking about what their outlook is, they're also talking their book and talking about what they have just done, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I see the same guys and girls probably, on Twitter, the bears, they've just been continually just keep printing and rehashing, and, so the bears for the last 2 months are still bearish now, even though we've rallied 2 months. So they're still every day, as the region's a bit short here. But, the thing about markets are, markets don't follow common sense, Chris. So if the market followed common sense, we'd all make money. But the markets don't follow common sense. So they've got a mind of their own, and they're out there to sort of try and, show you up here. Our highs come in when everything seems fantastic. Our lows come in when everything looks dire. You almost have to do the opposite to how you feel emotionally in the market. That's how markets work. Like, people also continually keep putting, got rates going higher, job loss. That's not how markets work. But markets don't follow the the fundamentals, or don't follow the cycles. The market looks way ahead, and it's not always sort of rational there. So, I saw a quote the other day. I can't remember. It was wasn't sort of William O'Neill. Might have been an older trader there, but it was about sort of being bullish or bearish. So it doesn't matter which you are. You just have to follow the price action. Price action is more important. So you have to basically get the blinkers off sometimes. Even the one thing I've noticed in this market is sometimes when there's a phrase there called it's called climbing the wall of worry. Some of the best rallies we've had in the last few years have climbed the wall of worry. So when things are sort of seem pretty negative and there's lots of concerns there, that's usually when markets go up, when there's a lot of concerns. That's sort of, so if you could actually chart your emotions, and how you positive and how negative you feel, and the more negative you feel, the more likely you should be buying, and the more positive you feel, the more likely you should be selling. If you could basically operate on that, that's when you become a good trader. That's when you sort of realize that's how the market operates. The market doesn't operate on common sense. So you've got to get out of your head there. I see a lot of smart people, it's usually some of the smartest IQ people in the market, understand fundamentals better than anyone else. Market doesn't sort of follow those sort of things. It's got a mind of its own, the share market. So it'll often confound you, do things which doesn't make sense here. But if you go back and study markets, that's exactly what they've always done. So don't think they're going to change. I think we, as a trader, you've got to adapt, start learning there, and start realizing that, emotionally, when things seem their worst, that's usually when we should be starting to enter the market and get them aggressive. And when everything seems fantastic and there's nothing completely wrong, we saw it with coal stocks there. Right? They're all humming. Coal prices we're all talking about
Couldn't have been better.
this long winter. Oh, it's got the winter coming. You can't lose money, you know. So what's happened with those stocks? You know, that was pretty much at the top here. Everyone was saying, mate, you've got to be like, you can't sell these stocks here. There's no way these stocks are going down because everything's fantastic. Everything's perfect for them.
They're just going to be printing money for years and years.
Market doesn't work that way. That's exactly the point where everyone's in that false hope of actually, yeah. So it's just, you know, it's, yeah, at the moment too, everyone is talking about rare earths and, oh, there's not enough copper, there's not enough rare earths. Mate, we're short so much. There's not enough production in the world to fuel these cars. We're going to have to be, you know, going to have fueling stations, going to have batteries. It's going to be so much there. Can't lose money. So I'm hearing, the last couple of weeks, I'm hearing you cannot lose money being long these stocks. It's like, oh, that is the sort of rhetoric. That's the rhetoric you don't want to be hearing in the marketplace, because that's the wrong rhetoric. That's the when everything's fine. It's you know, you're almost peak of you know, everything's all aligned. Perfect conditions. That's, yeah. So perfect conditions should be an alarm bell. Shit, everyone's long the sector. Everyone thinks it's going to keep going. There's no reason to sell. That is when I should be selling. At least I should be trimming, or I should be tightening up my stock, regardless. Okay. It's when everyone hates your sector here, which is obviously last month everyone gave up in gold, you know, had a few rallies and couldn't get going. It's now starting to sort of move here. A few people started coming on board, which makes me a little nervous. We've actually got quite a few broking firms now starting to support gold. Yeah, but just think about those dynamics there. Just don't trade this. The market is not to be traded emotionally. You have to be rational about the market there, because and think about it from an emotion point of view as well. It's usually going to do the opposite to how it feels, and that's important to understand that part of the market.
That's a key lesson. That is.
Yeah, it's hard to get your head around that, but as soon as you do get your head around that, then the market will make a lot more sense. So, yeah.
Well, that's probably a good lesson to wrap on. So thank you for pulling those apart, and we'll come back again on Tuesday to go through your weekly report. So thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Now, Gary mentioned a few strategies in there. He talked about springs, sometimes false breaks, very similar. Talked about volatility, contraction, pattern, cup and handles, and also the fold back technique that he talked about throughout the video. There are links on the screen to look at those videos, or there's a full playlist on the right-hand side. Also below that, there's another playlist of Gary's Tuesday videos where he goes through his weekly report. He looks at the portfolio that he runs for his clients. He also looks at the trades that he'll be looking at that week. That's on the right-hand side. And then on the left, there's also the Twitter handle if you'd like to follow Gary. And we'll wrap on that.